Good day everyone. This is video lesson in ITEP 101 or Human to Computer Interaction. This video lesson will cover the second part of Module 2, which is the lesson entitled What is Usability? The topics here include what is usability, gap between users and the software, HCI vocabulary, normal 7 stages of action, gulf of execution, and gulf of evaluation. Let's proceed to the first topic. What is usability? Usability, as defined here, is a measure of how well a specific user in a specific context can use a product or design to achieve a defined goal effectively, efficiently, and satisfactorily. There are 5 elements of usability. In order for us to better understand what usability is, let's talk about these elements. The first one is effectiveness. So when you say a user interface or a product or a design is effective, it supports users in completing actions accurately. Nagagawa niya kung ano yung intended na gusto niyang gawin dun sa product or dun sa design. The second element is efficiency. When you say efficiency, the users can perform tasks quickly through the ECS process. So the keyword is quickly. Nagagawa niya yung intended action niya ng mabilis na pamamaraan. The third usability element is engagement. So when you say engagement, the users find it pleasant to use and appropriate for its industry or topic. Nasisiyahan siyang gamitin yung isang product or yung isang design. Kung ito ay user interface, walang hassle. So, the fourth element of usability is error tolerance. When you say error tolerance, it supports a range of users' action and only shows an error in genuine erroneous situation. So, dalawang bagay. Naiiwasan nito na magkamali yung user. At ang pangalawa, kung magkamali naman siya, ay kaya niyang mag-exit or lumabas dun sa pagkakamali na yon. Or maaaring yung system ay nagbibigay ng actions na pwede niyang gawin regarding that mistake. And then the fifth element is ease of learning. So here, the new users, if you are a newbie, can accomplish goals easily and even more easily in future visits. Madali niya natututunang gamitin yung system at mas madali pa habang ginagamit niya ito. Parang nagiging natural na lang yung interaction niya dun sa product or dun sa design. So, ito yung 5 usability elements: effectiveness, efficiency, engagement, error tolerance, and ease of learning. So, kapag na-achieve mo itong 5 bagay na to, ma-achieve mo yung tinatawag na usability. Ngayon, kapag hindi mo na-achieve yung usability, meron tayong tinatawag na gap. The gap between users and the software. Parang hindi sila compatible, yung users at yung software. So, sabi dito sa slide natin, there is a gap between users and software. Kapag daw yung software ay hindi designed around the task that users perform, at if they find themselves unable to comfortably or effectively use the software, nagkakaroon tayo ng gap between the users and the software. Nahihirapan yung user na gamitin yung software, yung design, or yung product. So, bakit nga ba nag-i-exist yung mga gap na to? Pag-usapan natin yung rason. Una, yung slogan na ginamit mo sa development. Minsan, ang slogan natin sa development ay, kailangan gumana lang. So, it should work is often the only slogan. Today, reliability or functionality alone is not enough. Usability needs to be high on the software house's priority because it impacts users' productivity and overall satisfaction with the product. So again, hindi lang functionality or reliability yung kailangan nating pagtuunan ng pansin, kundi pati na rin yung productivity ng user at yung overall satisfaction niya doon sa product or doon sa design. So kapag hindi natin ito kinonsider, this is the reason why there's a gap, the slogan. So the second reason is the process. Yung software development process na ginamit mo sa development ng product or ng design. So there are development process na hindi kinoconsider yung users ng product. So they should be involved in the design and the evaluation of the software simply because they will be the one to use the product that you are designing. So the third reason is the approach. Dito naman, unang kinoconsider natin minsan yung system internals. Ano yung mga functions na kailangan ilagay, tapos tsaka natin siya lalagyan ng design ng user interface. Maaaring mag-work naman ito, pero the better approach is to think about the user interface and the functionality. They should be done together and at the same time. And the fourth is the skills of the developer himself or herself. Ang magandang software design or ang maayos na software design, it requires interdisciplinary skills. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang programming ang kailangang maalam ka. Kailangan din ng skills pagdating sa user-centered design. Paano ba ito i-achieve? Ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Pangalawa, technical writing. Paano magsulat ng isang document according sa design or sa development ng ginagawa mong product or ng ginagawa mong user interface. Kasi mas magiging systematized, mas magiging organized ka kapag ito yung ginawa mo, kapag maalam kang magsulat ng technical paper. Tapos, ang isa pang skill ay graphic designing. So, ito naman yung pagde-design ng mga icons, ng mga logo, ang tamang kulay na dapat gamitin sa background, sa font style, sa font color. So kahit yon, kailangan din natin siyang matutunan, hindi lamang programming. So maaaring maalam ka sa programming, pero yung ibang aspeto ay hindi mo alam, hindi mo rin ma-achieve yung good software design. So yun yung 4 reasons why the gap exists. Slogan, process, approach, and skills. So when the gap exists, ito yung maaaring or possible na reaction ng mga users mo. Una ay confusion. Ito ay kapag yung software is too complex or it is not structured as the users expect. Pangalawa ay frustration, na kung saan yung software ay inflexible and unforgiving. Kadalasan yung users, hindi nila kayang i-undo yung kanilang mistakes or incorrect actions. The tendency is for the users to get frustrated. The third is panic. So sa pagpapanik naman ay kapag yung response time ng software ay masyadong mabagal. Lalong-lalo na kapag yung user is under tremendous pressure from the boss or from himself or herself. The user has a tendency to panic kapag merong gap between the users and the software. So the next is boredom. So kapag masyadong mabagal din yung response time ng software or yung task ay overly simplified, maaring mag-create ito ng boredom doon sa gagamit ng system or ng software. Next is incomplete use. So dito naman, only some of the software's functions or tasks are used. These tasks are often the easiest to perform. So hindi masyadong na-utilize yung design mo o yung mga functions and features ng ginawa mong software because of the gap. Now, let's proceed to the next, indirect use. So, dito naman, kapag nakita ng manager or naramdaman niya na mahirap gamitin yung software, maaaring i-ask niya yung ibang tao para gamitin yon. Ngayon, yung intended user mo, hindi siya yung gumagamit kasi nahihirapan siya. So, kung merong gap, maaring mag-resulta ito sa indirect use. Next ay misuse or modification. So, dito naman, kapag hindi maayos yung pagkakadesign mo or yung pagkakadevelop mo, ng isang software at hindi mo na-consider yung usability, maaaring baguhin ng user according to his or her personal requirement na hindi according dun sa organizational interest. Ngayon, yung integrity ng system ay magkakaroon ng impact sa organization. Next is abandonment. Ito naman yung totally re-reject na nung managers or nung users yung system or yung design or yung product na ginawa mo. Okay, so now let's proceed to the vocabulary in HCI. We have some terms that are used specifically in the field of HCI. So what are those? Una ay visibility. So ang visibility, ito yung how clearly objects can be seen. So we operate with our eyes. Kung may user interface or may design, ang una natin gagawin ay titingnan natin ito. So kung ano man yung nakikita mong object sa screen, ang tawag doon ay consideration ng visibility. Next ay affordances. Affordances is the use or purpose that a thing can have. People notice as part of the way they see or experience it. So, yung isang bagay or yung isang design ay nagbibigay ito ng clue kung paano ito gamitin. So, ito yung tinatawag na affordances. Susunod ay mappings. So, yung mappings is the relationship between actions and controls. So, yung mappings, it is said to be good if they appear natural and intuitive to the users. So, kapag maganda yung mappings ng product or ng design mo, mas madaling gamitin ito ng users. Next ay constraints. Yung constraints naman, ito yung naglilimita sa possibilities na pwedeng gawin doon sa isang action. So, maaaring hindi mo muna i-display yung isang screen kasi hindi pa tapos yung isang action na required doon sa screen na yon. So, that is in an example of a constraint. Next ay feedback. Ito naman yung you let your user know kung ano yung actions na ginawa nila sa pamamagitan ng visual, auditory, or haptic na nangyari sa screen or sa product na ginawa mo. Next ay task. So, ang mga users, they are goal-oriented. Meron silang specific problems that they need to solve and they have a goal in mind whenever they use your design or the product. It means the task to accomplish. Tasks are complex and decomposed into subtasks. Yung mga tasks na to, kailangan ma-represent siya nung design mo or nung product mo. Ang isang halimbawa nito ay ang online shopping. So, may mga task yon: searching, adding to cart, adding to favorites, checking out, choosing kung paano yung payment method mo. So, those are tasks that are divided into subtasks at yun yung represent mo ng UI design mo. Okay, so next we have the user's model and mental models. Ito naman yung model or yung process na nasa isipan ng mga tao whenever they would operate on something. So these are the things, the environment that they interact with. And people form mental models through experience, training, or instruction. Katulad na lang ng pagbili online. Nang galing ito sa the traditional way of buying things, maaring sa mga supermarkets, what you will do is to search on things, check on the price, before you put them into cart. So, ganun din yung nangyayari ngayon sa online selling or online shopping. So, merong mga mental models na kailangan i-represent kung ikaw ay nagde-design ng isang user interface. Same with the traditional games. Tapos gagawin mo siyang online games. May mental model din yung mga tao regarding that specific game na kailangan gayahin mo dun sa user interface mo. So, next we have the interface metaphors. So, ito naman yung combining a familiar domain with system structure to make a concrete user interface. So, from the user's mental models, kapag convert mo na ito sa isang user interface, ang tawag dito ay interface metaphors. So, now let's proceed about the different feedback types. So, there are visual feedback, auditory feedback, and haptic feedback. Yung visual feedback, something such as picture diagram or piece of film that is used to show or explain something. For example, when you tap and it changed the color, that's an example of a visual feedback. Another thing is auditory. Ito naman yung naririnig mo. When you tap and then a click or a sound has been produced, ang tawag doon ay auditory feedback. Yung last naman is haptic feedback. When you tap the screen and it vibrated, then that is an example of a haptic feedback where you are stimulating the senses of touch and motion. Now let's proceed to Norman's 7 stages of action. This is the fourth topic. So the Norman's 7 stages of action is an idea of Donald Norman that he discussed in his book, The Design of Everyday Things. The Norman 7 stages of action is a model of how people interact with the real world. This model is called the 7 stages of action or Norman's action cycle. So these are the 7 stages of action. So we have here, this is 2 parts. Let's talk about the first part. The first part is execution. So if you are the user, you will form a goal about something that you want to accomplish. And then you will have an intention to act. You will form an intention to act. And then you will select a sequence of actions that will lead you to your goal. Because you have a goal, it is equivalent to several actions in order to achieve the goals. And then you will actually execute the action sequence. So the second part of the Norman's 7 stages of action is the evaluation. So kung dun sa unang part, in-execute mo para ma-achieve mo yung goal, ngayon kailangan mo i-evaluate kung ano yung nangyari dun sa execution mo. So the first step in the evaluation is the perception of the state of the world resulting from the action. How is the world when you executed certain actions? Second is the interpretation of this perception based on your expectations. Nag-succeed ka ba or hindi? Nakalagay ba siya? Nakadisplay ba siya sa UI or hindi? Kung merong nakalagay sa UI na notifications or prompt, ano yung nakalagay doon? You must be able to read it and there should be a sign whether you have succeeded or not. Third is evaluating whether or not the goal was reached. So you will evaluate. Na-achieve ko ba yung goal or hindi? Alright, so those are the 7 stages of action by Don Norman. Now let's proceed to this last topic, the gulf of execution and the gulf of evaluation. These terms, the gulf of execution and the gulf of evaluation, were introduced by usability researcher Donald Norman. They are concepts that are essential to understanding the interaction between humans and computers. The 2 gulfs are closely related to Norman's 7 stages of action. The first 4 stages make up the gulf of execution, while the next 3 stages make up the gulf of evaluation. So, let me explain to you each gulf. So, if this is the user and this is the system, when the user interacts with the system, the gulf of execution is when you have crossed that gulf if you are able to answer, how do I use the system? If the user knows how to use the system, then the gulf of execution is lessened. So it is the degree of ease with which a user can understand the current state of a system. Okay, so kapag nakikita niya yung mga status sa system, na-address natin yung gulf of execution. Ngayon, yung gulf of evaluation naman is the degree of ease with which a user can perceive and interpret whether or not the action they performed was successful. So, yung gulf na to ay maliit kapag yung system ay nagbibigay ng information about the state in a form that's easy to receive, interpret, and matches the way the person thinks of the system. Okay, so again, that is gulf of evaluation. So ulitin ko, yung gulf of execution is the degree of ease with which a user can understand the current state of a system. It is the difference between the intentions of the users and what the system allows them to do. So let me give you an example. A person can look at a light switch and easily tell the current state of the system, whether the light is on or off. And the user also knows how to operate the switch. This means that the gulf of execution is small. C. Don Norman has stated that in order to design the best interfaces, this gulf must be kept as small as possible. So let's proceed to an example about gulf of evaluation. Consider the same light switch example. If a person looks at a light switch, the gulf of evaluation is very small since with one switch, the user will immediately know if their action was successful. An example of a large gulf of evaluation is when an application has a spinning wheel to show a loading state after the user performs an action. The wheel alone is not enough for the user to interpret the progress that the system is making in response to their action. The gulf can be shortened by having a loading bar instead. So that explains the gulf of execution and the gulf of evaluation. So that's it for our lesson for today. Do you have any questions? So if there's none, thank you so much. And this ends my presentation.